Welcome back to the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker on this September 9th, 2020, where we have obtained our 12th client, marriage and glue sniffing. So, essentially, the main point of this topic is really to get into the concept of marriage and its worth and how it kind of began and has continued through the eons and how it could potentially result in glue sniffing and certain people if they're not handling it well, or
Hmm.
if it makes them actually have a better marriage if they're glue sniffing together. I mean, what's the old saying? Those that sniff glue together stay together.
Like glue. Stick together like glue.
Right. When they're
Yeah,
not
I
going.
think it's
That
more
old
a
saying.
metaphor of sniffing the glue that binds a relationship together.
Okay.
We didn't even think of that, how it all ties together when we came up with the client.
I think it's like, well, it becomes what kind of glue is the best for keeping your marriage together, though.
Right.
Uh,
Is it Elmer's? Is it
Airplane
modeling
glue.
glue?
Yeah,
Is it
modeling
wood
Airplane
glue is the
glue?
glue?
best.
It might be the glue that they use to stick PVC pipe together.
Is it true that maybe it's something that for a lot of people seems like a great idea at the time, but there's a lot of regrets later on down the road? So it's for some people.
Well,
Half the
yeah. I mean,
marriages.
obviously, within the United States, we've gotten to the point where over 50% of marriages end in divorce. The question is, how many new marriages, like say the first marriage is like the trial period where they're learning whether they like the concept or not, but then the second marriage they stick it out, you know.
The statistics are because some of my clients are actual lawyers and
Oh,
mostly in family law.
yeah.
Uh, it gets worse as it goes on. The first marriage is 50%.
Uh-huh.
Second marriage is like 60, 70. Third marriage, I don't know, they kill each other. Fourth marriage, you know,
They're huffing
it,
glue.
yeah, they're huffing. So
They, they,
the first marriage is your best shot. The second marriage generally doesn't work out.
That's an
that makes
interesting
sense because they
statistic.
weren't that good at marriage in the first place, and so like they're not going to get better at it.
I don't
They
know.
just
Maybe they could get better at it, but maybe it's more disposable the second time around. In other words, the first one was supposed to be for life, and then you learn through the immediate heartbreak and hell that you may have gone through that, all right, well, I guess it's not for life. So the next one is, eh, we'll see how it goes, type of
yeah,
thing,
uh
you
huh.
know.
Roll the dice again. Let's see.
And the
Yeah,
third one is the sniffing glue one. Is that's the sniffing glue marriages, but third. But it's like, in our day and age, do we need marriage? Is it still something that's important? I mean, it was originally created, I think, to ensure that you had two people together to take care of the children who are necessary for keeping everybody alive at some point too. Because
Mhm.
eventually they would get older and take care of their parents who didn't have a community or social services to help them. All you had was your immediate family members to keep you going through it. So,
I
understandable.
I kind of feel like that's kind of the society we're heading towards right now.
You think we're heading back to prehistoric periods?
I'm saying I'm glad I have four kids and I'm sort of grooming each one of their careers so that at a certain point I'm going to go, hey, I took care of you. Now it's your turn.
So, is this like a Gen X thing, or is this, something that other generations would be planning for as well? You think it's just more of
I
our
think they've always done that. People had kids. That was part of it. Like I want someone to look after me when I'm old.
yeah.
It's nice to
So,
have kids.
well, Greg, as the non-married person in the group, was there a
Hmm.
deliberate choice of yours to not get married and just sniff glue all the time, or was it just to not get married?
Yeah, I heard the song "Sniffing Glue," and no, is I never wanted to get married. But luckily for me, not many women were really trying to change my opinion about it. So it was quite easy to stay unmarried. I'm not much of a catch, if you will. So it wasn't like it ever even came up. I don't think I ever dated a woman who even talked about marriage
Having
seriously, ever.
having been to Walmart, I would say that anybody could be somebody's catch.
I
Yeah,
guess.
I was gonna say, Greg, I think you're selling yourself a little short.
A lot short,
Um,
actually.
a lot, there's no with I don't know, with a lot of women, they marry people that are terrible.
They
Uh,
Yeah.
do. And
way
I'm
worse
worse
than
than
the
them,
others.
I bet
apparently.
you were never like a wife beater or an abuser.
I was never given the chance, Matt. All I wanted was an opportunity. I never had a wife.
You wanted
I
an
don't know.
opportunity to beat on a wife?
I might have been a great wife beater, but I just don't know. I never
Did
had
you at
that.
least try on the shirt to see if it fit you?
Yeah. I've never worn one of those shirts because I always had man boobs and they look very unflattering in that.
Oh no no
But
no no! That's when they're at their best. That's when they
I know
really truly realize, like a wife beater on some well worked out 24-year-old boy.
looks
Put
great.
a, no, put a wife beater on some dude. It's got a chicken wing stain and the man boobs, and then the sweat right here. Ah, that's what you're looking for.
And that's who hangs out at Walmart that you're talking about.
Yeah,
Those are the
And
guys at
is it
Walmart.
like the plain white T-shirt wife beater, or is it like the ribbed one, like thermal underwear type of wife
oh
beater?
no,
do
we're
you-
going. We got to go straight thermal
No.
underwear tank top,
Yeah.
which is
But I
generally supposed to be skin tight because it is truly an undershirt.
You have to
Mostly
repeat that. You
used if
broke up throughout what you just said.
I was going to say it should be the ribbed tank top because you wear it under a shirt primarily to hide your nipples if you're wearing a white dress shirt. That's the only time I ever wore one.
I think Greg
Ah.
is fine with showing his nipples.
Yeah.
That could be.
Yeah, I think he would.
I have no
problem.
shame about sharing my grotesque body with the world because it's comfortable.
So,
But I mean,
but you never had the
getting back
opportunity to use the shirt in the
Yeah, in that
appropriate
way,
moment.
yeah.
Okay.
like it's necessary. We need that uniform.
It's like, hold on a second. Hold on, honey. I got to get my shirt on before I beat you. Anyway, and by the
this
way,
is-
anybody listening, this is not something we advocate in any stretch of the imagination. We are joking,
But we are
we
joking about
understand
this
that
horrible
domestic abuse
topic.
is a horrible thing. It's very
We're
serious,
joking
and none of
about
us
it.
would do something like that intentionally. Anyway,
No, but we are joking
Intentionally.
about it because we're terrible.
Whoa! We got to talk about intentional.
Yes,
glad somebody
Oh.
caught that. That was a little throwing.
I gave you the benefit of the doubt and pretended I didn't hear it.
Anyway, so Greg, you never got married because
So-
you said that no
so-
woman wanted, or did you try to even ask a
No,
woman to marry
I
you?
never wanted to. Like I said, I never wanted to get married. And
Why,
just
what are your
fortuitously-
reasons? What are your reasons for not ever asking a woman to marry you?
I hate to say it's I had really good parents.
That's something
They
I
were-
hate to say. Yeah.
They were very no. I mean, that was the rest of the part. I hate to say,
Oh.
but I had a very domineering mother and a very passive father. Because I'm a male, I identify with my father. So I literally thought getting married means you never get to do what you want ever again in your life. That subconsciously, I just thought, oh, getting married, I'll never have a say in anything. I'll have to do all this crap I don't want to do, never get to do what I want to do, and I'll basically be a slave to someone the rest of my life. And my
So
mom
did you always date domineering women?
no, and
Okay.
luckily, I mean, I've definitely been attracted to that, like Catwoman and Batman. I thought was really hot. So in fiction, I think
Dated
that's sexy.
Catwoman?
No, I say I found her attractive, but
Oh,
But
I mean,
maybe he
it was-
did date her actually
I wish, God.
after a good
Julie
night of
Newmar.
sniffing glue.
And I'm talking about Julie Newmar, of course. And
What, not Eartha
but
Kitt?
she was pretty hot. But Julie Newmar, man, ooh.
But not
God.
Halle Berry, not Michelle
Oh,
Pfeiffer.
I'm a
Halle
Halle
Berry's
Berry
pretty good,
cat
too.
girl. No,
See, she was pretty beautiful in that. But I just just never wanted to. I'm also pretty selfish. I think I like I like being alone, and I've dated women for years and lived with them. You know, almost getting a little test run for what marriage is like, living with someone, and I'm just too selfish. I just always want to do what I want to do whenever I want to do it.
So
And-
how long was the longest you cohabitated with a female?
About almost 3 years, I think it was.
Wow,
2 to 3 years, something like that.
that's
Yeah.
not a
Twice.
short amount of time.
And
Yeah,
what
once I-
age? What age were you at that time?
30. One was like late 30s. One was maybe early 40s, somewhere around there.
So when you hit like the 2-year mark, aren't you start kind of being interested in the idea of being married? Were they bringing it? Were they broaching it all with you at that
I
point?
think our relationships were already crumbling at that point.
Oh, okay.
But we lived together, and it was the kind of relationship where we really liked each other. It just, you know, it wasn't like we fought all the time or we started hating each other. We ended up being really good friends. It just we realized we weren't in love with each other, like passionate love anymore. So one of my girlfriends and me, we broke up and still lived in the same house for a couple months before she moved to where she was moving.
So
And it
what
was
were
fine.
her worst habits that made you like go, I could never marry
None. She
her?
was amazing. She was a great girlfriend. I still adore her. I still am friends with her. And she was actually a great roommate. She liked her alone time. It wasn't like she was bothering me all the time, like, hey, do this with me. She was a total loner herself. I could have always just said, hey, Pam, I don't really feel like doing this. I just want to go in my room and read a comic or something. She'd totally be like, fine, yeah.
So you had no faults with her. So why'd you guys break up?
Right.
That happens sometimes. I don't know. You
No,
fall out of,
no,
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 fall
no,
out of,
no.
dude,
If
that
you
sounds fantastic.
you never fall out of love.
I tell the woman in my life, you know what? I'm just gonna go in my room and read a comic book. I don't know what you're doing, and she went, yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. I
That
think
doesn't
you missed
happen
out
with
on
you?
what you had.
That doesn't happen with you? She'll
well,
be like,
but you said you really, really love this woman, though.
I
You
do,
really,
but it wasn't that. I guess, and I was the kind of emotional cripple. I don't think I was capable of really loving someone at that point.
uh-huh.
I don't think until my mid 40s I finally figured out, oh, this is what love is supposed to feel like.
Oh, I
What
don't know if love is anything really.
I know it's crazy.
was it?
That's why
Was
I'm
there?
asexual.
I was gonna say,
It's
was it a
nuts.
lack of sexual attraction? I mean, was it like
Not
the
at
two?
first, but I don't know if you guys have ever been with people where you kind of just stop having sex because it just gets cool.
We're
Even
married,
though we
Greg.
still, oh yeah, you guys know, all my married
There
friends
are
know.
there are lulls here and there. Yeah.
I know, but we were only together for like a year or two, and it already started getting like, whatever. I'm gonna just go to sleep tonight, honey. Like,
Was
but I
it?
mean,
So you didn't even want to go through the motions anymore?
it just became, I don't know why that happens. That's what really was one of the things that made me really get down on just romance. How it just dies like that. And you don't even know why. It's just such a sad thing. Like, I love this
Well,
person. They're great. They're attractive. I still think they're beautiful.
uh-huh.
And yet, why? Because now that we're living together, why is it all boring now? And we're just like,
Well, did you try anything to make it more exciting?
I didn't.
Did you
I
did you
I
wear
didn't.
like an Antifa outfit and she was dressed up like a cop or something?
We didn't have Antifa back then, Matt. That's a new terrorist group that has just infiltrated America in the past few years.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought maybe that would be something.
We had Al Qaeda back then. I could have been an Al Qaeda, and she could have been a soldier in the American Army. It could have been hot.
Okay, but you just never tried it though.
No, yeah,
It's okay. I
never.
never would have either. I don't do dress up whatsoever. I don't do any of
Was
that
it? Was
stuff.
it? Was it mostly one of these things where no one knew when to initiate it, and so that it just became awkward? Like you'd have needs, and then you didn't want to impose on her, or maybe she did, and you were reading a comic book, and then it just got awkward like that.
I
Or
think that's what
she.
happens in relationships when the sex dies down. There's just always some reason. Oh, I didn't think you wanted to. I don't want to bother you. Like, it's somehow those reasons come up when you're really hot for someone. Those reasons never come up because they're not there. Both of you are attracted to each other, and you want to tear each other's clothes off most of the time.
So
But
you're
then it
expecting
dies
like a
away.
long-term relationship is supposed to be like that
It
for
would be nice.
decades.
It would be nice.
For
I'm not saying this feeling's being
decades of
soured
hot
on me.
passion every day
Wouldn't the
where
world be nice though? Wouldn't it
where
be
no
nice
work gets done at all. All you're
if things
doing
really
is you're
get
just
done?
humping like no, that's all you'd be doing is
Not
dealing
all
with
the time.
the
I'm saying
after
once.
effects of ultimate passion, which is like rashes and rug burns and you know
You're maybe having sex a little rougher than I'm used to.
things
You're
being
like a
tossed off the
Klingon.
kitchen table. You
You
know,
scratch marks on your back,
it's
and
like you would never clean up the house because all you're doing is having sex. Is that like the concept of marriage that were expecting, Greg? I think maybe your expectations might have been a little too high for
well, like
marriage.
I'm saying, that's just one aspect of things that's a little sad to me about staying together with someone. But really, it's just that I like being alone. I like not having to answer to anyone,
But if she
and
felt the same way, right? If she
I
felt the
still
same way
had
that
to.
you did,
There were still things that sometimes she wants to do something, and I'm like, it still happened where even though there were little things,
uh,
I'm just that selfish.
so
I'm just
basically what you're saying is autonomy for you is much more important than security of having somebody there with you that you
yeah,
really
because I
like.
have a tiny heart and I don't really care. I like being alone.
Okay.
I'm not much. I
Yeah,
don't have
but
much capacity to love someone.
but your girlfriend, your wife, whomever, is always going to have some idea that let's go do a picnic or let's visit my parents, or they're always going to have kind of off the wall dumb ideas. And
Visit their parents. That's
Dumb
off the
ideas.
wall. What a
Picnics. How
stupid
stupid.
idea.
I'm
Picnic,
just
you crazy person.
What kind of halfway?
I'm just being honest. And as
I
as
just like that
somebody,
you think a picnic is an off the wall idea.
it kind of is
Crazy.
I mean, in Florida, let's be honest. Who wants to picnic in Florida?
I
But
don't
my
know.
point is that there's always, whether it's picnics or visiting the parents or whatever, crafting, or let's go to one of those places where we get drunk and paint a picture together. Whatever. There's going to be something that she wants to do that you are like, this sounds terrible. So a long-term relationship is really boiling down to which of those things are you going to object to and say no, knowing that there's going to be some blowback, and which of those things are you just going to suck it up and go, all right, I guess we're going to go get drunk and paint something. That I can accept that.
Well, that
There'll
makes
be
you go,
blowback.
so what are the benefits then of going along with those off-the-wall ideas that you don't want to do? What makes marriage positive for you enough to put up with that lack of autonomy, that lack of wanting to do those uninteresting things?
Um, having been married for 29 years as of about a month ago now.
Oh, happy
Um,
anniversary.
Thanks.
Sure.
If you can work it out, and it does take work, it's not easy. If you can work it out, your significant other, whether that's your wife or whatever, because we can talk about whether the institution and signing documents of marriage is important, but whatever, the person that you're sharing your life with, that you may or may not have kids with, becomes your best friend. And like many best friends, you don't agree on everything, but you agree on the important stuff. And it's nice to have somebody in a relationship, somebody that you can kind of always count on, somebody that no matter how weird your shit got or how whatever bad day you were having, you have somebody you can go and talk to, and you know that they actually give a shit about what you're going through. That's not always true with friends, you know what I mean? It's like somebody calls you up and they're like, oh, I had a bad day, and you're like, I got other shit to do. The thing about a long-term relationship,
Talk to your therapist.
yeah, the thing about a long-term relationship is you have that agreement, and you have that from her, and she has that from you. You dump on her to some degree about whatever the bad day at the office or, whatever the hell it is, and, she comes to you and she's got some controversy of her own, and you may think this is dumb, but you know what? Like as a currency, you know what? She's going to have to listen to my dumb shit at some point. So I'm going to listen to this dumb shit and pretend to care. And because I know that at a certain point, she's going to listen to my dumb shit and pretend to care. And that's what makes it work.
Holly, if you are listening, he cares about everything that you say.
Oh, she does know that. But she also, if she was listening, and she may be, I don't know because I'm loud, she knows that that's true. She knows that I'd come home and tell her some dumb stuff about whatever I went through, and she's like, okay. Yeah, that's really terrible what happened at the office.
Brendan, I just wish that this was your vows. Honey, I'm going to listen to all your dumb shit. Just knowing that you'll listen to my dumb shit. You may now kiss the bride.
I'm telling you, those would be honest vows.
Yes, they would, I think. It is. I do miss that. I miss having someone and even the good things. Like I've dated women who have like totally weird senses of humor like I do, where there's certain things in a day I'm like, oh my God, she's the only person I know who would appreciate this, and I can't wait to get home to tell it to her. And so I still have friends with a lot of my exes, and sometimes I'll call them, but it's not the same. The next day I might be like, oh, this just happened, and they'll laugh because we do have similar senses of humor. but I do miss that about having a girlfriend.
Well, maybe you
And
could get all of your exes together to move in with you, Greg, and
like
then
a
the
polygamous
ones.
thing.
No, because you're not married to him, right? So
Okay.
you could get all of them to live with you so that you could have those various different aspects that you prefer about them and just use them for that part, right?
And then like a quiet room. So the ones that I don't like, if they're the aspects I don't like, then get in the room. I don't like that aspect about you. So you be quiet now. Yeah, man, I'm gonna run this by all my exes and see what
I
they think.
think
I should have thought of this
I
years
want you to
ago.
actually do that, and we'll do an
This is a
episode
great idea.
on what actually was the result of this particular request.
That would be a reality show for 5 seasons. That would be great.
I really, really, from my experience with women and raising two daughters, a group of women in a room or in a house together, unless there's some God authority that dictates they do this, it's going to turn out bad.
Are you gonna be that God authority?
Mm-mm.
You don't want to be that
Are
one.
you drinking
No,
cough syrup, Brendan? What is that? That little tiny bottle you're drinking out of?
He's in Florida. That's what they do.
Cough syrup?
He's
Oh,
getting
it's
crops.
an energy drink. Oh, this is because we're boring him, Greg.
no,
I
it's
He's got a,
guess.
it's because it's almost 10 o'clock at night, and I've put in like 9 hours starting at
Yeah,
about 7. So
I was late today
so
coming
you
to the
want to
law
be up until
offices.
like 2 in the morning? Is that it?
nah,
Do the
nah.
12-hour
I've,
energy
I've
drink at 9 o'clock at night?
I've perfected what I like to call the coffee nap. And that is where you like drink a cup of coffee or some other caffeine thing, and there is a certain spike, and then there's a little bit of a crash, and at that crash you go to sleep. You wake up about 2 hours later.
2 hours later, after having not get any sleep the night before either.
Uh, I work for myself, so napping is a big part of my life.
So you're doing the Thomas Edison thing.
Kinda.
Thomas Edison was like very well known for cat naps. He felt that sleep was a waste of invention time, and so he would just take cat naps here and there as opposed to sleeping through a night. And I guess that's how he was able to invent the light bulb and the motion picture and
That and
whatever.
stealing the idea from Tesla, but
Yeah, and crushing unions,
Well, it takes
sending his
work to
goons
figure out how to crush a union.
It's true.
you got to
It's
stay
You
up
got to
late.
work out the
tactics.
strategy.
Yeah,
Especially
military
Tesla.
strategy.
He went after Tesla because of the bad haircut. But anyway, what were you
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, the what is it called? I may be getting this wrong. Polyphasic, I think, sleep thing. There's something to be said for that in terms of, I get up at a certain point. Now, I don't do it because I'm inventing the light bulb. I do it because I have guys overseas that, for me, 2 o'clock in the morning is mid-afternoon for them, So having that kind of schedule, living in kind of this post-industrial world, kind of makes sense. And it doesn't work unless you take naps. The 8 hours of sleep and you go to bed when it gets dark and you get up in the morning works for farmers and it works for people who have corporate jobs. If you don't have one of those two things, you might want to explore a different type of sleep structure.
I used to have one of the corporate jobs, and I still couldn't do the 9 to 5 thing. It used to just be awkward for me. And so once I finally got out of that business and went into business for myself, what I would do, because I run karaoke shows, is I would take a nap before I would go do my show, so that I would be, in my opinion, awake enough to not yawn over a microphone and
Right.
thus be unprofessional. But yeah, anyway. I got distracted because of what Greg was doing, which is just staring at us.
living,
So
existing.
we've talked about Greg, who's never been married.
Yes.
We've talked a little bit about me, who's been married to one woman for 29 years.
Yeah.
Let's talk about you, Matt. Let's shine the light on your marriage experience.
Well, after my first marriage went bust, and I could only really blame myself for the most part of that happening, I had decided I was never going to get married again. And I was like, well, I tried it the one time, and it didn't really work out, and I wasn't really a fan of the ending of it. And I'm like, I don't know if I really want to go through that again. And
And
I did.
sorry to interrupt, for our
Sure.
listening audience, how old were you when you got divorced?
I'm trying to remember how old I was when I got married. So when I got married, I think I was 28,
Mm,
and so the marriage was about. I think we were officially divorced 10 years later, so I would have been like 38. But it was kind of crumbling a couple of years before the actual divorce.
right.
But yeah, it was like 2004, I think, when we were officially divorced. And then, was it or 2005, maybe? It was like the end of 2004, somewhere in 2005. But we made when we had three kids together, and so I'd given her custody of the kids because I didn't want there to be a huge amount of animosity in that. And then she wanted to move cross country, and so I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm moving cross country too. So we actually drove cross country together, in the throes of the divorce that was going to be happening. And actually, it was a pretty good trip. We got along pretty well. And we made some agreements, which was that once we were separated, that we would not say anything bad about each other to the kids or to other people, because we realized that that would probably keep us having a better relationship as we were going to have to raise the kids for the next 17 years, you know. And so, and for the most part, I think I was pretty good about that. I can't say the same for her. I don't know if she said bad things about me to other people. I would imagine she might have, because she was the one who initiated the divorce and the one who
For
wanted.
what it's worth, your wife never said a bad thing about you to me.
Okay, well that's good. I mean,
Nor to me.
yes, because I don't think she knows who you are, Greg.
No, because she's never said a bad word about me.
Makes it quite easy. Anyway, and we still actually have a pretty good relationship in terms of communication. We still talk, every week or two.
Matt,
Um,
can I just interrupt for a second? Could I
sure.
suggest that for the ratings of our show would be quite a scoop if
Yeah.
after all these years, if tonight you did say something bad about your wife, ex-wife, for the first time ever, and on air, imagine the ratings we get.
I don't know that that would give us great ratings here in the middle of the broadcast, but the only thing is talking about where Brendan was talking about, the wife listening to the dumb shit you have to say. I did learn at a certain point that I would talk to her, and if she was doing something else, she would do a lot of nodding and ahhing. And so I used to test it out by then talking about something ridiculous to see if she was paying attention. And most of the time, she just didn't realize that I was making shit up. And so it was like it was definitely not listening to me at all.
Hey, honey, I
But it was
rode a
more,
unicorn
but it
today.
was,
It was
but it was,
awesome.
but it was more, yeah, something like that. It would have been that ridiculous, but it made it funny because she would realize it and then laugh about it. So, anyway,
Uh-huh.
but for the most part, we probably, to be honest, we probably shouldn't have gotten married to begin with. Neither one of us, we actually didn't really date before we got married. It was one of those things where I pursued her, but she was actually across country. I knew her because we had a working relation before, and I was like thinking, who's somebody that if I was interested in getting married to, who would it be? I went, oh, I think I want to marry her. And so I basically talked her into it. And we didn't even actually date. I think we had like maybe one official date before we got married. And then the fact is that we were together for a long time. It was, like I said, about a decade. Based upon that, which is as good as as many other people have,
It's not.
Yeah.
It's
you
not.
know,
It's not bad. It's not bad at all.
who
So
spent
you,
years together.
yeah, you mentioned that she was the one that initiated the divorce. What, if you want to talk about it? I'm not saying
You
you
want me
have
to
to.
talk about my horrible character flaws? Is that what you want to talk
Yes, I
about,
would
Brendan?
actually.
You could just lump it into, you know, one big general thing.
Yeah.
I mean, 29 years of marriage. If I would be lying to both of you if I told you it was just smooth sailing and we were just like, rainbows and unicorns the entire time. So I'm happy to talk about the flaws that have brought us close to that brink. But
Well,
anyway,
Can I guess?
I'm assuming, because one person told me that my ex-wife had called me a narcissist at one point, which certain character traits of mine definitely lend themselves to that. I can't disagree with that. But at the time when she said she wanted to get divorced, I actually thought our marriage was going well. And so obviously I was incredibly clueless, and perhaps I was like heavily narcissistic if I couldn't see bad things were happening, right? If I couldn't see that there was something bad going on in the relationship.
Interesting.
Her
So it took you
unhappiness.
by surprise completely.
For the most part, I didn't know it was coming,
Yeah.
and
Well,
I was like, yeah. So I was kind of stunned for a few days, and I had to figure out a way to make it okay. And the way I made it okay was just thinking bad things about her and reasons why it
That
would be
always
okay
helps.
to be to be gone with her, because we did counseling, and that I think worked because it helped us actually get into better communication with each other.
yeah.
It didn't necessarily solve whatever it was she needed solved with me. I don't think there was anything I could do at that point once she made up her mind that could make her think that I could become a better person at all. And
Right.
honestly, I didn't really know what I was doing wrong. I think she told me, but then it just didn't sink in.
Yeah.
And so, basically for many years after that, I'm like sitting around going, all right, so why am I a horrible person? What was it that I did that caused our family to break up, Um, and I think part of it was temper, because I did have a bit of a volatile temper and could
Yeah.
raise my voice relatively quickly on certain things. Um, I can be a selfish individual, don't necessarily think beyond that. And I think after we had our first kid, I became more of a responsible person, but prior to that, I wasn't like really that responsible of an individual. I was, even though I was in my late 20s, I was still kind of a crappy human being. Anyway, not that I'm much better now. Anyway,
Right.
I'm fulfilling my selfish desires by doing a podcast when I could be doing something with my wife right now, right? Anyway,
Oh, I didn't really mean for this to turn into that, dude. But what's
well,
interesting,
what did you mean, Brendan? What did you want to get from this? What did you want to hear?
well, I was honestly, I was genuinely interested, and here's
Okay,
why.
because you're
Um,
planning on marrying Greg.
I didn't want to talk about that, but since you brought it up,
I could see the signs over the past few weeks.
He leers down at you.
after he
Yes.
said he wanted to move down here and learn philosophy, I thought, maybe.
Yeah, Plato was good at that kind of philosophy.
Those
Yeah,
platonic relationships.
Yes,
but
platonic.
for me, honestly, obviously our relationship has, any relationship has its ups and downs, and for us, I think a lot of times, because Holly has, my wife has never like definitively said, but sort of, mentioned things and suggested heavily that might be the best way to go. And
So that what might be the best way to go?
divorce.
Oh, okay. She's mentioned
And
it to you because you've been less
a
than
dick.
kind. Okay.
Yeah. Now, for me, it wasn't that I was narcissistic. I don't know that she would have put it in those terms, but
Well, to be honest, I can't say that my ex ever said that about me. I'm just saying that somebody else said that she said it. So I just want to make that clear. That she
fair
never
enough.
said it to me. Right.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
What, and this is kind of goes back to why I was sort of like suggesting Greg had something good going on. My wife is very social and very empathetic and very much the life of any party she walks into, and I'm not. Uh,
You seem like such a happy-go-lucky guy. I
I
can't
know,
believe
I
that.
know, it's weird,
So,
and that obviously reflects itself not just outside of, you know, you
what
just fell in
the?
a well.
Greg, did you just like fall over and fart really loudly? What is just
I
going?
didn't fart. It was a car. A car with a bad muffler.
It's like first your camera went askew, and then that noise happened. I thought, oh no, I've got to get to Greg's house. He's dying.
I've fallen and I can't get up, and I'm farting too, and I can't stop farting.
It's just like one of those bodies that have been pulled out of a river. That's
Okay, let's go back to Brendan.
I totally lost my train of thought.
You were
Zippy,
talking
Zippy
about
the pinhead,
maybe-
can you pull your head up just a little bit so I can see the top of your... Thank you. All right.
You were talking about crises in your marriage where your wife had brought up the D word.
His head looks like the thing that you buff a shoe on.
For our listening audience who can't see, so you know, I became more aloof, more withdrawn. I don't know that I was ever not withdrawn.
And
But
where
anyway,
in the 29 years did that happen? Was that about the 15-year mark or so, or?
ish?
Oh, okay.
Ish. And you know, I can't say it took me by surprise. You know, like when she made these originations, you know, told me these things, I was like, yeah, I mean, no, I get that. And, you know, and, okay. And, you know, I decided at that point that, you know, those character traits weren't exactly, I wasn't necessarily proud of them, or I didn't think that they were ideal. I didn't know how much of that I could change, you know, how much a person can, how much of person's basic personality can change is obviously up for all kinds of debate, which would be a whole nother show. But I tried, you know, I tried to be more effusive, mindful. I tried
effusive. I want to say. Show us how you're effusive, Brendan.
Well, you know, like if, as an example, she would say, "Oh, I found this thing that whatever," and I would go, you know, "Oh my God, that's amazing! I'm so glad you did it," as opposed to saying, "All right, good, glad that happened."
So basically, you traded that statement with being insincere. That's why you.
Maybe we all have to be a little insincere in a marriage or in a relationship.
That's an excellent point, Matt, and I certainly struggled with, you know, how much is the dividing line between just being a complete phony and just being present and acknowledging something that someone you love. It's important to that person, and just acknowledging that.
Right. I think there's a switch that has to be flipped in our minds, which makes us go, I actually believe what I'm saying now. But I think we have to fake it for a while till we finally get to that point where we actually do believe it and we actually are sincere in our compliments.
No, well, you know, but just, I'll let you, just as a second, I think that more importantly, there's an observation of, you know, from a software perspective, setting the default on I don't give a shit, whatever, to let me listen, and then I will be selective about what I think is great. Because I don't, you know, every time my wife says something, I don't just go, oh my God, you know, but being able to understand, oh, you know what? Rather than just have the checkbox on who gives a shit, let's take that checkbox off and go, oh no, this is actually important. If I really pay attention and listen, this is important. Or something else she says, I go, that's not that important. And sometimes we have those discussions because the thing she thought was important and I didn't, I reacted like, okay, cool. And that wasn't good. And so we'll have those discussions. But now we're having a rational discussion about some sort of scale of this is cool, or I think this is important and I don't think this is important. And we can have that and it becomes rational.
And what were you going to say, Greg?
Well, actually, that was kind of answering. So I was just going to clarify, like, so in a way that, I mean, it worked. You have actually changed because of your wife's suggestions, if you will. You've actually now I listen to people maybe a little better and don't have my what did you say, my instant check off box that who gives a shit. That's a nice thing, you know. That's a good character trait. And so I was also going to say that's one good thing also about living with someone for a long time, having a life partner, if you will, is I think it just keeps you normal. I'm all alone in the world, and sometimes I'm just I'm spinning off. I could spin off into some crazy direction, not have someone to check me at any given moment. I could start getting weirder and weirder, like some people do. I could
Like
get
some
older and
people we
weirder,
know.
and yeah, and I wouldn't have a wife to be like, "Honey, come on," and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, you're right, hon. I'm getting a little obsessed about whatever crazy thing I'm." And it's like it's almost. I'm not saying you're going crazy, but like you also have someone just to help you remember the norms of human behavior and
Well,
social interaction. Like you
that
live
brings
with
me
this person.
yeah, that brings me to my
Continue.
second wife, actually. Sorry to interrupt. I just
No, I was pretty much done. I was, yeah.
I just want to confirm what you're saying, but that does bring me to my second wife in terms of having somebody else to help you. So the second wife comes along when I'm not considering marrying anybody. Actually, not even considering dating. It was kind of a fluke how we got to know each other. And but I decided that if I was going to be dating someone seriously, they need to know the bad things about me up front. So I started just using what I called my idiot filter whenever I did dating, which was to let people know my various different faults and flaws and things. And go, these are the positive things about me, and if you're willing to deal with those things, then okay, here we go. Well, she and I started dating. I'm like, there's some issues that I have. Apparently, I'm mean to people, and often I don't realize that I am. I don't know that I'm saying mean things. It's because it's so quick. I do it so matter of fact, not even matter of factly. I do it as a knee-jerk reaction. Often, it's like I'm just trying to be fast whenever I talk to people. I don't spend as much time as people deserve mulling over the words that come out of their mouths so they can give them a full responsive
If
answer
only you had
to
this
whatever.
podcast back then, your potential dates could just listen to it and know all this. They'd
Yeah,
know
that I don't know if
what you're
they
like.
would definitely not want to meet my friends after listening to this podcast.
Yes, that's
So
true.
so with my current wife, we had issues in the beginning where she dealt with it. I'm like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure this is one of the things that contributed to the end of my first marriage. I'm like, well, if you're willing, maybe you can help me out and point these things out as they happen. And if I'm doing this thing here, ask me this question. So throughout the course of our marriage, she's been helping me realize whenever I say mean things or vicious things, which I have a tendency to do sometimes. And I don't really want to cause that reaction to somebody, but I just kind of do it because it's kind of how I was raised. So these things are like ingrained within my psyche of how I respond to some people and how I react to some people. And it's through no fault of theirs. It's entirely me for whatever reason I'm doing it. And so it's been very helpful. I'll say to her, I'll ask her to ask me a question like, are you being mean? After I say something which is potentially mean, and so I have to then deliberate it and go, okay, well, I guess maybe I am being mean, and maybe I should apologize. But the problem is that that's turned into is I go, oh yeah, I was being mean, and I'll do it again. I'll I'll take the opportunity.
Stop me, or
I,
I'll
I'm
do it
gonna
again.
I'm gonna take some friggin' enjoyment out of being mean to this person. I'm gonna continue, but in reality, that's not really what I want. I don't really want to be mean to. I don't really want to cause people to rethink their way of thinking about themselves. Or here's an example. An example with you, Brendan, which I don't think you remember at all. This goes back to about 1992 when we were living together in Virginia, and we were having some conversation. And so this is something I have to apologize about because weirdly enough, it's stuck with me all these years. And we're not having. It's not like a conversation about anything historic or profound. We were just talking about music, and it was like the advent of Green Day. And the band Green Day. We were like talking about Green Day and how, and they basically just annoyed me at the time. And you made the statement of, well, as a student of music, in this very like authoritarian, somber tone, and I just started laughing because I thought it was one of the most ridiculous things for someone to say, because that's just how I felt. But it was unwarranted on my part to make. Basically, I was making fun of you for saying something like that. That you're a student of music, and anyway, so
Especially because Brendan went to Juilliard. He was a student of music.
I have to quibble with your pronunciation of Juilliard.
Juilliard, sorry, Juilliard.
Well, that's fascinating. I mean, I don't totally remember that,
I don't know why you would. I mean, it's just something
but
that stuck in my head because I realized it was a mean reaction of mine to what you said, and you didn't deserve it. And I could have said it in a different way. And I think why the reason I'm bringing it up is because a few weeks ago, on a different episode, you said something very, very similar. You said, as a student of blah blah blah, and I totally like brought that memory all the way back where I really wanted to do the same reaction to you and make fun of
Yeah,
you
you know
again.
what? You know what? If you go back and listen to the tapes, you absolutely did. Because when
I
you
think you
just said
did,
that,
Matt. Actually,
I
I think you
remember you
did.
making the fucking comment, and I'm like, why are you being a dick about this? I'm just talking.
You almost thought you grew as a person,
I
but you
thought I
didn't. You
did.
did
I
the
guess
same
I didn't.
joke.
I thought I didn't do it.
No, no,
Well,
you did.
I
You
thought
did.
I wasn't just a dick about something else.
No, no, you
Well, slightly
specifically
different.
you
Student of.
specifically made the joke about, oh, you're a student of, oh, it was film. You're a student of film, so that means film is teaching you something? No, you did. I don't remember which one it was, but you did.
Roll the tape.
Well,
Roll the tape,
I'm
Matt.
willing to believe him. I just think it's like I think I did still grow. I wasn't as mean compared to what I did
He didn't laugh at you as long.
30 years ago.
Yeah.
I gotta say, when it comes to cruelty,
and from
oh, sorry.
my character flaws, I gave this many more shits this time than I did the last time.
I gotta say though, sometimes I'm cruel just for the sake of telling a joke. Where I used to be more of a joker and always trying to make people laugh, and sometimes it's jokes are semi in the cusp of being cruel. You gotta know your audience, and sometimes I go over just because I'm like, that's really funny. I'm gonna say it and just see what happens, where the chips fall.
I think I'm a victim of that same
I think you do that with me
motivation.
sometimes.
Oh, not just you,
Like,
Greg. Pretty much anyone in my
yeah, yeah,
sphere,
yeah.
or even somebody who's not even in my sphere. I'll like, and it's not a sane rationale. It's
No,
not.
it's not a good thing. Yeah.
No, it's not because we should generally be polite and be nice to each other. And yeah, it's quote unquote funny at the time, but it's not really funny. So anyway, so tying all this back in together, and again, I'm sorry, Brendan, for the 30 years ago one and the recent one, and since you don't care, then I'll just keep doing it.
Well,
Anyway,
apologize for the one you're going to do in a month or two. You're probably going to do it again.
I'll do
here's the,
apologies for the years to come.
here's the thing, Matt. This kind of ties it back to marriage. Not that we're married, but
Uh-huh. We
you
seem
can
to
say
be
that.
30
You can
years.
say, I know, you can say that, and I can acknowledge that, but I know goddamn good and well you'll do it again. And what makes a relationship work, is knowing that and accepting that and going, you know what? He's acknowledged that that's a dick move and he's trying to correct it. And if it happens again,
That's why there are shelters for battered women. So,
let's
think
talk
it's
about
also
beating
true.
women for a second.
what's that? What did you say, Brendan?
He wants to talk about battered women for some reason.
Those are women who work in bakeries.
Yes.
Beer battered wives.
Right?
Beer battered wives. Go ahead, Greg.
I was going to say that, like, I also think what makes you and Matt be friends is deep down, like Matt really cares about you and thinks the world of you. So it is just Matt's goofing on you.
Speak
Like
for
if you were a
yourself,
stranger,
Greg.
yeah, whatever.
Put
And just like
compliments
your
in my
wife,
mouth,
if
bastard.
you have a decent relationship with your wife, maybe you could say a cruel joke to her. She'll know that, like, oh, that's just my hubby being silly, and she knows you love her and she knows you care. So it's not the worst thing if you make a little sardonic comment here and there. Or
Actually, it took her a while to
rib her
get
a
used
little.
to my sense of humor in the early days because we're both from different environments. Like my first wife and I, she came from a very liberal, hippie, beatnik background, was raised like as a Buddhist, and I was raised in a Reformed Jewish family, but my father was military, and I was a military brat, so I moved around all my life. So I had a more conservative upbringing, and so that's why before, when I said we probably shouldn't have been married to begin with, we probably should have dated and learned certain things about our own personal philosophies, where we would have gone, oh, in the long run, yeah, this probably was not going to work out well, considering my major character flaws. Now, in this particular marriage, it's the other way around. I'm the more liberal of the two in this particular marriage, but she's really, really, really tolerant of my foibles. I don't know why, but she is. And so
It's
that's,
because of her religion.
she's gotten to
Her
be
religion
pretty
is
much my guinea
notoriously
pig.
tolerant.
She's like the guinea pig for my verbal abuse, essentially, so that I can work my way through it. She's accepted a lot of it, which most sane people would not. They would just kick me to the curb as the first wife did. But she's been incredibly helpful to me in changing those aspects of my personality. Now, I was never physically abusive, but I have to admit that I can be verbally abusive, and it's not okay for that to happen. And
Yeah.
I'm
again,
sure that
I've gotten much better at it over the years. But what
none of
was
the
that?
listeners to the podcast would really understand what you're talking about right now, man.
I think Greg's sister would understand it. The one,
So let me ask you
the
a
one who
question, just
hates me.
Yes.
just to clarify more from a point of whatever interest. So you divorced your first wife when you were whatever mid late 30s,
Right.
and you were single for how long before you remarried? 5 years, 10 years?
It wasn't 10. I got remarried in 2000. I think I got remarried 2010. So it would have been about 6 years. Yeah.
6 years. Okay.
So I dated like 30 women in those 6 years.
Really?
Yeah, I was
Now
busy, which
the
is
only
more than I
reason
ever married before I had my first marriage. First I ever
Bizarre.
dated, I mated.
right.
Yeah.
The only reason I'm asking is, kind of out of morbid curiosity, because when things in my marriage would go kind of like to the south or whatever, and I would go, oh wow, if this really went down, I'd like play it out in my mind. What does this mean?
Yeah.
And I was of the same mind of you. It's like, because this would have been, let's call it, I would have been early 40s, mid early 40s when it kind of got really rocky.
Uh-huh.
And I started thinking, I will never marry again. I will not date. I don't care. I'm going to be Greg. I'm just going to go read comic books and play Dungeons and Dragons.
I don't play Dungeons and Dragons.
How dare you
Okay.
insinuate
would,
that?
But I was just like, fuck it. I will just go live in by myself and do whatever I want to do and fuck women, and I'm done. I had a wife for X amount of years, and I had kids, and I did the whole dad thing, and I did the husband thing, and now I'm done. So it's interesting. I couldn't ever see myself, and the reason I asked this, Matt, is I couldn't ever see myself, if that did happen, I couldn't visualize myself ever getting back to dating or any of that. Not to say that I wouldn't have,
Yeah.
but at the time when I was sort of tussling with it, I was like, no,
Well, I liked being with women. I liked the dating part. That was kind of fun for me. It was the marriage part I really didn't want to experience again. And it really wasn't until my current wife, she was the one who really wanted to get married. And I gave her so many reasons not to marry me. And I was like, what's going on here? I'm like, doesn't she understand that I'm not right for her? Doesn't she understand that
Is
this
that
is
why
a
you grew the beard?
like is this a bad no, she likes beards. I'm like, don't you understand this is a bad choice for you? And we would have these things where she would have some character trait that I didn't like, and so I'd point it out because at the point I didn't care if somebody stayed or went. That was mainly my point of view in dating. I had like a 3 month lifespan for pretty much anybody I dated. They rarely lasted more than 3 months. Now the woman I dated just prior to my wife, we went out for a year, and that was just a stupid mistake because I should have known she was evil, and I didn't really realize it till the end. So, but that being the case, still, with my current wife, and she would change her behaviors that I didn't like, and I'm like, well, this is really freaking weird. I'm like, this is somebody who's actually changing the way they deal with things for me. That was highly unusual. And I was like, wow, I mean, like, guess she like digs me or something. I'm like, why? Why would she? These things didn't make any sense to me. And so, somewhere along the line, I remember just having these conversations where she was like interested in getting married. I'm like, I really have no desire to ever get married again. Blah blah blah. And then one week I was just having this like minor epiphany, and I asked her. I said, let me ask you this question. Like, what do you think? What are you going to get out of being married? What makes this good for you? And she listed this, and this. I can't remember what they were. And I said, well, we could do all of that without ever getting married. And 2 days later, I proposed to her. and flipped her out, because she wasn't expecting it all, which is kind of my nature too, is I like to do little surprises for people. They don't expect me to do something, I'll do something. And she said yes, and I went, I guess we're going through with this. And, now we've been together, I guess we've been together for like 11 years, been married for 10, and, this, which is as long as my first one, and we've gotten through all the rocky parts. All the bad parts have been kind of done. So now it's kind of like, well, okay, I guess this is the long haul now. You know,
Right. Don't you think that um,
the sniffing glue is tomorrow, though.
that sniffing glue would help?
You
No,
might,
that
might help more.
that that obviously as an older person, or be more mature, whatever you want to call it, remarrying after a marriage, you have a certain better sense of the game. You know what I mean? Like, which unfortunately the statistics, as I said at the beginning of the podcast, don't work out. But it should be, logically, in my opinion, that if you were married and it didn't work out, and then you get remarried, you can look back at that past experience and go, okay, well, these are the things I didn't do right, or these are the things that she, whatever. You can kind of rationally look at it and then go,
Yeah, like practice
okay,
makes perfect.
yeah, here's a better path forward. Unfortunately, what's weird is that statistically that's not the case.
I think
But
it's mainly because people are freaking different. I think everybody goes into a marriage, I think, with different expectations of the other person, like 90% of the time. Like one person's getting married for a different reason than the other person is getting married, and only those people really know what that reason is. And it's kind of like my philosophy that everybody's crazy to some degree or another. Everyone, I don't care who they are, they're nuts. And they've got some weird thought knocking around in their head that if it were finally to come out, a person would go, oh, oh, that's what that person's like. Which so many people have experienced if they listen to this podcast about me, because Greg has certainly brought up plenty of those moments. But
But everyone knew that about me from the get-go. It's
not
like
only
you
about
seem
you,
kind of normal.
you've brought up
I'm
my
just,
my
oh,
comment,
I
things that
have,
I've
but I'm
said.
also a weirdo. But I'm an obvious weirdo. I don't hide it. It's just like, yeah, this guy's a fucking weirdo.
Yeah, it's expected from you. Whereas,
Yeah,
for me,
exactly.
you make your comments about how I'm the drunkest person that's not drunk.
That's true. You do come up with some bon mots that
However,
stagger
most of
me.
those things aren't, I'm not really being serious about. So,
I
but
know.
still, some people have these really crazy thoughts. And I think, that 60% or that 70% of people who don't make it in their second and third marriages, I think it's a similar thing. They didn't really learn how to communicate and get to that nutty thought, where the thing you go, oh, I need to get away from this quickly. And it could be, most of those people getting married for the third time, they could actually be serial killers or something. And, they finally get found out about it. I think that's what it is. Everyone who's been married 3 or 4 times is actually a serial killer. And I think that's
I
Yes,
honestly think
what
statistics
happened.
prove that.
Too. If you married
Yes.
four, if you've had more 4 marriages, you obviously are
Look at
chopping
the
people up
stats.
and burying them under your
Look
house.
at the stats, man.
Yes.
yeah, I think honestly, I think people that get married more than a couple of times, obviously have a bunch of money.
No, they don't.
Oh, one of them has
Well,
a lot of money.
no, I think they
One of them
have
is
to in
poor.
order to survive that many goes, getting together and separating. Now, my question is for Greg. Greg, so we've talked a lot about being married for a long time and
Yeah.
uh, being married and divorced and remarrying. So my question for you is, you're 52, right?
Yeah, I'm almost 53 in a few days.
There you go. You answered the question. He's all good.
Good. So
Yep, I'm 52. End of
would
story.
you?
Move on.
That's
I'm
a
not
question
saying-
you wanted to ask.
I'm not saying marriage. I'm not saying you got to go down to the courthouse and sign some paperwork.
Yeah.
But would you, at this point, consider, getting together with some sort of life partner for the last, whatever, 30, 40 years of your life?
He would
Not
have to
now.
consider actually having sex with another person first.
Yeah. Because not maybe I
Because
could define a
he's been asexual for a number of years now.
yeah. I don't even want to have sex, like even loose sex. But I know it's fucking weird to say out loud, isn't it? But you know, like having said all this and how I feel now, I know it's probably a phase. I mean, unless I'm a really fucked up person, but like
Wait,
I know I could meet a woman
unless you
unless it's more fucked up than any of us can imagine than thought. But I know tomorrow I could meet a woman and all of these thoughts will go out the window and I'll be like, this makes total sense. That's how love is. I mean, like Matt, when he was done with his first wife, this happens so many times. I've known so many guys who got their heart broken, like, I'll never love again, fuck. They meet someone a week later and they forgot all about their old lover and they're just like, this is great. That's what love is like. And so
well, for me,
I'm
it wasn't
sure,
about forgetting the first one. It was more like
no,
it's not like
I'm
I
not
was
saying
still
you forgot
pining
them.
for her or anything. It was for me. It was
Yeah.
just I just didn't want to go through it again.
Yeah, and you were just pretty much in that mode, in that time of your life. You were just like, fuck marriage. I'm gonna fight against it.
Yeah.
And whatever, I'm even beyond that where I don't even want to date women. But I know that could change any day if it's some woman I meet. I mean, love is crazy, you know.
Well, let me ask you a question to kind of sum up our whole conversation here, which is marriage still useful in this day and age?
What about like just saying,
is it necessary?
I know it's an odious term, but like life partnership or whatever, having a significant other like for
Well, I'm talking about the
forever.
institution of marriage. Is it still viable? Is it
The
still
actual
worth?
like formal institution of
Yeah.
getting the documents.
Yes,
I don't think I never thought that was
the
useful.
blood
That
test,
was always
all
silly.
that stuff.
Yeah, I never thought that was useful. It doesn't matter if you're actually married or you just dedicate your lives to each other. Like I found the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. Who
What do
gives
you
a
think?
shit if you got married? Who
What do you
cares?
think, Brendan?
Well, first off, just from a science perspective, the blood test is kind of important if you plan on having kids.
No, that is important. Sorry, that is an important part of the process. But signing some documents or whatever.
But beyond that, beyond the actual blood test and making sure you're not marrying your cousin or something, the paperwork of marriage is unimportant. And I think that kids, you know, young adults today are seeing that more and more. But I think there is something to be said for, especially if you're having kids, and that's part of your plan, whatever. Having somebody there to raise those kids and provide that sort of stability, I think that is an important institution. And I think that mom and dad need to suck it up relative to their own emotional needs from time to time in order for the greater good.
Yeah, I think some people
Yeah.
shouldn't stay married. I think some people should be apart because they're
Yeah.
violent or
Yeah,
detrimental
they're just
to the other
hurting the
person,
kids.
right?
It's
Oh,
worse for
yeah,
the kids.
no.
Or even
this
just
is
hurting
not to
each other.
say-
You know, so.
This is not to say you should stay with somebody who's abusive or
Yeah.
a complete asshole, but I think that a vast majority of divorces are not based on the fact that Bob is beating Susie.
I think they're based upon people being incapable of knowing how to deal with the other person or just looking for the easy out. You know, they're like, okay, well, you know, I can't take this anymore. I'm not going to try and fix it. So I have other things that I want to do, and I'm
Do
going to
you think
get
it's
out of
valid
this.
though, guys, to just divorce if like, hey, I just fell in love with this person? I think that happens all the time.
I think
People-
that's a silly excuse for people to say they fall
Is it?
out of love.
No, you can fall out of love.
Well, you know, I think falling in
happened
love
many
is
times.
legitimate either. But the point is love is a created thing. It's something that you choose to feel towards somebody else. Other than that, it's just love or lust or obsession, right? Love is something that grows and you create on it. You make it stronger. You don't fall out of love. You deliberately choose not to love, is my opinion on that. So,
Yeah, I don't believe that. Sorry.
Greg, just
disagree.
my not even counterpoint, my further clarification on that point is if the two of you decide that you've fallen out of love with each other and you don't have kids, yes, please divorce now.
No, I've known some couples who didn't love each other. They divorced, but they didn't hate each other, and they still raised their kids pretty well, even though they weren't
Yeah,
living
I
together,
know.
dating other people. They still were just great parents, and
as
they like
far as you
were there for
know,
their kids.
as far
Well,
as you
they
know.
the kids grew up pretty damn good. I'm old enough where I've seen these
Well, I'm
kids
not talking
become
about the
Yeah.
adults.
kids. I'm talking about the couples themselves. As
Well,
far as you
I
know,
know them.
they got
They're
along. Yeah, but
no, I'm
you
saying
don't know them as well as they know them.
all I know is that the kids ended up okay. So
And and you know
at the
what,
end of
Greg,
the day,
and that's totally fine.
yeah,
I'm guess because of my perspective, I'm the hardliner here.
yeah.
I mean, I know Matt's kids are good kids, and Matt got divorced, and it all worked out. I'm not to say that kids are doomed or people shouldn't divorce at all. I'm just saying if you can work it out, you should try. If you can't, fine. And then be like, Matt and his ex-wife and be good friends and work together, and you can do that too.
Yeah, I
I
wouldn't
just
say
think
we're
that
good friends. I'd say we're friendly.
they're civil.
Yes.
They're civil.
That's I don't even
We
I don't
don't
even want to
we
I don't
don't
even
yell
want
at
to
each
know.
other anymore. Let's put it that way. All right, on to the pizza fund. Pizza fund is here.
Wait, I want to
Um,
say one more thing
all
about
right, go ahead, Greg.
divorce.
One more
Because
thing.
as
Up.
a person, I
Time's
just
up.
want to say since divorce has become more basically acceptable, it wasn't acceptable. Like people just stayed together even though they were miserable for the rest of their lives. And I got to say, there's something to be said for like you got one life, and just because somebody says, "Oh, divorce is shameful," you got to stay with this bad choice you made when you were 18 forever. That's
Yeah,
pretty fucking sad, and I
right.
kind of like the
But
fact that it's now
that's
okay.
basically stating that they're married. But I'm talking about getting married at all, not staying married.
Yeah, but I thought we were talking about divorce and marriage too.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, we had kind of gotten through that point already. Anyway,
Okay,
pizza fund.
pizza fund. The
Pizza.
important things. Let's talk about something important.
Exactly. So far we have raised, and drum roll please. I'll accept the lip roll. We have raised $3.91.
That's a huge leap, huh?
I think we were at 291 last week,
Yeah,
weren't
is
we?
that the
Yeah.
biggest jump? That's
Yeah,
by
that's
far
like
the biggest leap we've ever
nearly a
had.
buck in a week. That's highly unusual. So, and going into analytics, if I can find our 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 final our bleh, what am I trying to say? Our where's my information? All right, I'll
Oh,
just
the
go into
sober guy slurring
I'm
again.
going into. I'm just going to go to the analytics. So we've got more American listeners now than other countries. Like a lot more now. We were at 82% American. We were like at 71 or 75% before. France has dipped down to 14%. I think after all of
Oh,
our bad French imitations, we dropped the French vote. Still have 1% in Ireland. So that one person in Ireland, if it's an actual person, is listening. And again, still less than 1% Canada, Ukraine, Nigeria, United Kingdom, and Germany. So strange. I don't understand that. Anyway,
I want to just reach out to our Nigerian listener.
yes.
I feel you. Please reach out to us. Send me some sort of scammy email about how you're the prince or something. I don't know. I'm willing to listen.
and give you money.
So our last episode, School Subjects on Trial, has gotten as many plays as the previous episode. It's gotten 32 plays in a week, whereas our 10th client, which is Diets and Their Bastard Children, has also gotten 32 plays. And the client before that, Vacations for NFO, has gotten 33. So our last week's one has gotten the best amount of play, I think, than all the episodes in the first week.
So next week's topic will be school subjects.
So School
Return.
Subjects
The return.
again.
It
The
kind of
Wrath
goes
of
to
Khan.
it kind of goes to say that because we made like a buck
Yeah.
between
Yeah.
now and then.
Yeah, there's a huge spike in the statistic. I'll show you the 3-month jump if you guys can see the statistic at all.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, so that
So
huge
please
spike was
turn
this
in.
past week.
Please
So-
tune in next week for the school board of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker, where we will discuss education.
We'll only
For the
be
next
discussing
year.
school subjects. But our first episode is still the one with the most plays, which is favorite ethnic foods at 53. Doesn't move much these days, but it still moves occasionally. Idiocracy is second. That was our fourth client. and that had 46 plays. So anyway, so some people seem to be listening. I know that one person that Greg and I mutually know said that she's gotten through all of her episodes and now she's like addicted to the podcast. So it goes to show that we have one person that we have actually one fan, and their main
And
thing
what
is
is what is that? What is her name?
her name is Paula.
Paula.
Yes. If you want to say hi to Paula, say hi to Paula.
Paula,
Hi,
we
Paula.
love you.
Yes.
I don't even know who you are. I think these two guys know you, but
Yeah, we
I
know
love
her.
you.
We definitely know her.
I love you, Paula. Come to Florida.
She'll teach you philosophy.
She has stated that she thought you were a little too right wing in the beginning. She was happy to see that you've kind of bent a little bit along the way.
Well, given the audience, I am probably the most right-wing person here. But I guarantee you that in Florida, they're burning crosses in my front yard and calling me a leftist Antifa asshole. Believe me.
Well, Brendan doesn't drink kombucha, so he's a
Right.
suspect to me.
Well, I don't drink kombucha either. Why would anybody?
What?
Why would anybody drink that stuff? Fermented
Oh,
tea?
Do I even know
Wow.
you guys? What kind of podcast am I on?
Greg, when's the last time you drank kombucha?
I'm drinking it right now with my bourbon. I mixed
Drinking
it.
bourbon and kombucha.
Bourbon
No,
and
I don't.
kombucha? Is that a drink? What is that called?
It's called
It's
death.
called
A
called a
rusty,
diuretic.
a rusty Antifa?
It's a
What is
rusty.
it?
It's a rusty testicle. Is what it's called.
It's called Poor Man's Epicat.
All right.
Excuse me for coughing in everyone's ear. All right. Well, that being said, let's wrap this sucker up. So I saw Brendan's wife just go behind him. So
I got to put these girls to bed. It's
late. So
late.
anybody have a pithy comment, something profound they want to end the episode with? Anything new?
Astoria's burning.
Astoria is burning?